We are now joined by Felix Biederman, co-host of the Chapo Trap House podcast, co-author of Fighting in the Age of Loneliness, an MMA documentary, and Saudi Arabia-loving bon vivant who is known to smoke a pipe or two. Welcome, Felix.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We knew that when we were planning a Saudi Arabia episode, you had to be the man on it. Because you seem like a huge Saudi Arabia stan. How did that come to pass?
You know, I think like a lot of people who were sort of coming of age during like 9/11 and the Bush years, there was like a bizarre fascination with seeing pictures of the Saudis, you know, holding hands with Bush, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
It was very odd to like be in middle school and then to be in like sort of junior high, you know, / like freshman year times in your life. That's when you first start taking like modern European history and shit, right? And you read this amazing like court intrigue about monarchies. You read about the benevolent monarchs, you read about the Habsburgs, you read about Charles V, the greatest baller in European history. And it's very sexy. Like, as sexy as it can, being about like just totally disgusting inbred freaks, right?
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. It is sexy in a way, right?
Yeah.
And you sort of compare it to the staid boringness of your contemporary time, you know, Harry Reid as Senate Minority Leader.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is like, I kind of want to escape into that, especially if you were like a teenage lib as I was. But then you're just inundated with these pictures of Bush holding hands, having these very weird closed off meetings with an absolute monarch, right? Like, not just this, because you know about ceremonial monarchs. This is an absolute monarch, an absolutely powerful monarch. And I think it just kind of fascinated me. It was so different from the current events that you otherwise had access to. And it started out as like a lib thing. You're just basically a little kid, and you're just so mad at Bush all the time, and you're trying to find a way to like get him. And it's like, ooh, you say you're against 9/11, but you held hands with a Muslim. Like, you're just dumb. You can't figure it out because you're like 12.
And it's kind of like a precursor to the orb, and also a precursor to like the kind of Trump and Putin are gay, like this kind of childish.
Yeah, exactly.
Like seeing a bunch of grown men gathered around, like putting their hands on a crystal ball. Is just it's a very interesting image.
What? They have a Tupperware club. They were doing a seance.
From there, I got very interested in it, and I had an existing interest in like the Ottomans, because my mom got me like very much into Napoleon when I was a kid, and I read about the Battle of Acre, which is an insane battle because it was Napoleon fighting against the Ottomans, who he had the utmost respect for. He said they fought like demons, and I thought that was, you know, because I thought Napoleon was like just the biggest fucking baller in the world. It's like, who would he logically like be afraid of? And it's like, no, these guys were ferocious. And then I guess from there I just got like sort of like generalized, very amateur interest in the Middle East that has continued to this day. Despite one aborted effort to learn Arabic, before realizing that part of my brain is just cemented over forever, and the best I can ever do with languages from now on is just awful Castilian Spanish. But I've always like cringed when people call me an expert, because I'm so fucking not. I don't speak the language. I've never been there, or any Middle Eastern country. I'm the least expert person you know. I'm just a guy with a lot of free time.
Wait, no like high school trip to Israel for like Birthright or any of that shit?
I've never been on Birthright. I think I got like a year left before I can do it. If anyone wants to go fund me the plane ticket. I'm kidding. I would get it myself. I'm not going to do it before anyone gets mad at me. I'm not going to do Birthright, okay? But
my parents made me go in high school. And it just so happened that the age group that I went with, there were no other American kids. So it was like me and like 15 Israelis. I came back that summer wearing like real tight black jeans and like kind of a shimmery tank top. My parents were like, "What the fuck?"
When you got back and tried to hang out with your friends, you were like, "Hey, can we get into a shoving match at a restaurant called like Burger Party?" Can we do an abortive ecstasy deal in Lebanon? They're like, what the fuck, dude?
Hells yeah. All right, so QAnon often portrays Saudi Arabia as pulling the world's strings. Do you think there's any truth to that claim?
No, I would not say that. Okay, so I guess to answer the question, what is the extent of the control they've exhibited? I mean, control over their citizens for sure. Control over their side in their incursion into Yemen. Control over whatever rebel groups they funded in Syria specifically, and control over some things in in politics in their region of the world in general.
Yeah.
The answer, like the humongous series of loans they gave Egypt. But I think there is this tendency among QAnon people, and again, and with people who have sort of like their hearts in a better place, right? In America, people who are like, don't really know what they are, but are trending towards some sort of left populist thing. But they put things in the terms of like, it's Israel is controlling America, or like Saudi Arabia, or like the Rothschilds, when really it's just like America's doing it. We're doing it because we want to do it. And it's more like, obviously these countries are imperial proxies if you look at it through the lens of capital and power relations. But I think with most people, even if your heart is getting in that right place, you are generally going to think that it's a nefarious foreign influence, that in our heart of hearts, this country could never be so evil, right?
Yeah.
But,
Right.
it's not them pulling the strings on us, for sure. They absolutely lobby our government, and their lobbyists absolutely accomplish things that are definitely more favorable to them than to normal people. Yes, absolutely. But if you're going to look at the power relation between the states, it is not that our state is subservient to them. Absolutely not.
Right. And so, but do you think foreign policy in the United States is being shaped by Saudi Arabia?
No, I think it's being shaped by America. I mean, I think that a lot of think tanks in DC are shaped by their donors, and those donors often turn out to be either Qatar or Saudis or the UAE or whomever. But in general, if it's a mainstream foreign policy think tank, its goals are going to be in line with the goals of the American empire, right?
Yeah.
Money.
Right. Corporations care about is money, man.
Yeah. Money, oil, power.
That's right.
Yeah, the triple pillars of the Middle East. So you've read all the Saudi royal diaries, when they are alone in their bedroom and they put their little legs up and they lay on their stomachs and they're writing in there, and you found all those diaries and you read them all. What's the weirdest story that you've come across?
Weirdest, I mean, so much of it is like totally unsubstantiated, right? Because there's a lot you want to believe, but it's like there's so much intrigue that you're like, okay, how much of this is just one guy that hated another guy because of, he took a slave from him or something, asinine thing. Yeah, they just had this decades-long grudge. So, but I think some of the more substantiated stuff it's not as sexy, but it's always interesting to me. Like the famous thing about King Saud, one of the kings who didn't, I think the only king who did not serve out his full term. He left before he died. He was a complete alcoholic, right? And when like American oil executives were doing business with him, they noticed that he kept bottles and like all his empties under his bed to hide that he was an alcoholic. And
I had a roommate like that
this
once.
incredibly powerful absolute monarch was just acting like a teenage boy, right? He was hiding all his empties in there, and that always stuck with me.
He's like Leahy from Trailer Park Boys, just being like, I swear to God, Randy, I'm off the liquor.
Yeah. Here's my favorite one of all time, and this is completely unsubstantiated. This is substantiated in absolutely nothing, but it's my favorite. And it is that Saad Hariri, the prime minister of Lebanon, the guy who got kidnapped, right? If you guys remember that his father, Rafiq Hariri, the Lebanese politician and media magnate, he went to Saudi Arabia to make his fortune, as a lot of people from the Levant did. And the legend that I heard that has just no factual backing to it, but I sometimes choose to believe because it's fun.
It sounds like somebody else we know on the podcast. Me.
Part of the deal for this guy who came there to the country with essentially nothing and left a billionaire magnate was that Prince Abdullah made a deal with Hariri that he could impregnate his wife.
What?
And Hariri would essentially raise this bastard child as his own, and that child is Saad. Again, this has no basis in fact. The only basis is that Saad and Dari Seven, the sons of the most favored wife of Ibn Saud, they have the same weak no chin. That's it.
Oh my god, that is QAnon shit.
Yeah, it's like the Podesta, the John Podesta, Chester Benningfield, where they think that Chester Benningfield is Podesta's like illegitimate son.
Mm-hmm.
And he found out that his dad was like eating people, and that's why he killed himself.
See, that's about as far as I heard. It's one of those times I really wish I knew any fucking Arabic at all, because I'd like to delve deeper into this one. Because it's so interesting, and it's like you could definitely believe that like Saudi royal would be depraved enough to do something like that, and someone like Saad Hariri would be enough of a scumbag to be like, all right, fine, I'll do it. I want it that fucking bad. I want this so bad. But I think it's interesting, right? I think there's an interesting crossover with QAnon, right? Because it's like a lot of the QAnon shit is so patently fucking stupid. Like that they have to sacrifice these children so they can get the best drug known to man. But it's also like you would believe that a lot of these guys would do it. Like, okay, who's that guy? Ed Case, the California Democrat.
Ed Buck.
God.
Ed Buck.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if that was a thing that you could kill people to get this amazing drug, that guy would do that. And so would a lot of these people. I believe that like maybe Tony Podesta would do it. I believe that,
Yeah.
But it's just so patently ridiculous. But there's a kernel of truth in that I believe that this person is capable of doing this if this were a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's why they're so attractive, right? But they're always short-sighted. They're always short-sighted because, as you guys know, our elites are better than theirs. Our elites would never do this. But yeah.
Yeah.
They never would.
Yeah.
So who is your favorite king and why?
I think like the most interesting one, because he was like possibly the smartest one they've ever had, was King Faisal.
Mm-hmm.
He was the mind behind the oil embargo of the 70s.
Yeah.
He was responsible for a lot of modernization in the kingdom. He was incredibly smart. He was an incredibly smart guy. He saw the way the world was going. He engineered the Saudi ownership of a lot of Aramco, their national oil company. He modernized a ton of stuff in the kingdom, education, infrastructure. He was brilliant. He was obviously like kind of a bad guy, right? But very, very, very different from his predecessors and those who came before him. And he's also responsible for one of the worst things that happened in the country, which was what ended up happening to the education system. So as he wanted to modernize so much, and he wanted to actually put women in school, but religious hardliners despised that. So part of his deal was like, okay, if you let me do this, I will staff the schools with Muslim Brotherhood hardliners from Egypt.
Wow.
And they're like, okay, that's good enough for us. And wouldn't you know it, the consequence was the generation that came after, the sort of boomers was significantly more religious than them. They were significantly more fundamentalist. And so, I mean, even as such a smart guy, was very short-sighted. And he, of course, he was killed. He was killed by a prince because the prince's brother was killed during a protest, and he blamed Faisal for it.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
But Faisal did a lot of stuff that was smarter than there are a lot of little things he did that were quite smart. One of the things that King Faisal did was he met with Malcolm X when Malcolm X took the Hajj in 1964.
Yeah.
And that is what an incredibly shrewd move.
Now,
right?
The Hajj is the pilgrimage to Mecca, right?
Yes. And an incredibly shrewd move. I mean, Faisal I think he was more aware of the kingdom's role as imperial proxy I think a lot of most of them are probably aware, but I think he resented it a lot more than the others because he took the most dramatic action against the West in the oil embargo.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, who's your least favorite king and why?
I mean, they're just all equally like sort of repulsive, right? I don't think you can really say one's that much worse than the other. I mean, Solomon is funny because he clearly has just advanced dementia. But I don't know how much you can hate him really. I mean, Abdullah was one of the most sort of into being a Western proxy that you can be, and one of the last sort of shrewd, clever ones. Khalid, who came after Faisal, was sort of like a moral coward who was afraid to continue a lot of the good things that Faisal did. That was responsible for the he sort of empowered a lot of extremists, which ended up being a horrible legacy for the country and later the world. I mean, they're just all bad. They're all bad. I don't know how much worse one is than the other.
I think when you put king in front of anybody, they just have a propensity.
But some of them make lovely gardens or whatever.
Anytime somebody is king, I don't know, maybe you have a propensity to kind of fuck shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a lot of good ones.
Weird, because monarchy seems like a cool.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing, right? When you study like European history, right? It's like you after a while, hopefully, you come away with the conclusion that everyone's kind of bad, but you have guys that you kind of like because they got a little more like panache than other guys. Like, Charles V, Carlos I, is like awful piece of shit, right? Like any monarch. At least at least he went for it. He left everything out on the field, huh? He told Martin Luther, come to a conference. Let's do a conference. Let's do a theological debate. And his whole plan was just to fucking kill him with a sword when he got there. What a guy. What a fucking guy.
Yeah. That reminds me, actually, the thing that like launched that huge 100-year war between the French and the English was a similar thing where they were supposed to meet on this weird like neutral thing on a bridge, and the Dauphin had built like a fucking secret passage, and basically when the guy kneeled to say hello, they instantly decapitated him, and then they rushed in with all the guard, like just a fucking absolute disaster. Nobody's good. And then, of course, it led to 100 years of war.
Yeah. I mean, was it Trotsky who said that Cromwell was like a class ally?
Yeah,
But it's like I'm willing to hear that argument because, yeah, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, Trotsky or Cromwell was so bad to the Irish. But it's like everyone was so bad to everyone, you know?
Yeah, historically, people are good like by mistake.
Exactly. Well, Cromwell strikes me as a guy who thought he was being, but, as being a product of his time is like, oh, yeah, you just kill these people, right? That's what you do with them.
It's like that great quote from Futurama where Bender like finds himself like in the middle of the galaxy talking to God, who's just a giant computer. And the computer basically says, anytime you've done the right thing, no one's sure you've done anything at all.
Yeah.
So the Sunni and Shia conflicts are along religious lines, but today the West seems to have difficulty understanding power and conflict if it isn't along national lines or at least military and territorial lines. So I have a few questions surrounding the topic, but first, can you quickly explain the difference between the Sunni and the Shia and like how recently the conflict has existed?
Historical reason for it is a debate over the succession of Muhammad after his death, whether it goes with Abu Bakr or Ali. And the Shia are with Ali, and the Sunni are with Abu Bakr. It, goes on to this day, but I would say some of it is religious, but a lot of it that we see is just, a lot of it is nationalism, and a lot of it is different concepts of what political Islam is.
Mm-hmm.
So the most powerful Shia state in the world, obviously, is Iran. And I think that Iran is particularly frightening to people because it's the world's first successful iteration of political Islam. You could argue that Saudi Arabia maybe is, but it's just buttressed by seemingly endless supplies of money and American power, whereas Iran not buttressed by any of that. And I want to be clear: I would not like to live in Iran. I don't think that's a good place to live.
Mm-hmm.
I would not like to live under even revolutionary political Islam. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the internet speed's probably bad too.
Everything, but it is definitely I think, a more sustainable and successful system than other iterations of it that we've seen. But a lot of it also is just, the conflict that you get between states, territorial conflicts between Sunni and Shia states. But there are individual tribal differences you get on the smaller scale, like you would get in Iraq. But yeah, runs the gamut. That's your very stupid answer. It runs the gamut.
And
It's
so,
my very dumb answer.
so Saudi Arabia would be Sunni aligned,
Yes.
and then what about the neighboring countries, Lebanon, Jordan, UAE?
Sunni of course is not a monolith. Qatar is a politically dominated by Sunnis, but they of course have massive issues with the Saudis and UAE. And part of that, it has more to do with money than religion. They share a huge, huge natural gas field with Iran. They're very close to Iran in geographical proximity, and so they do. And their modus operandi is sort of to play both sides always. Even though they are, ostensibly the same religious group
Right.
as the Saudis, they're now hated enemy. Same with Turkey. Turkey is Sunni, but they've had numerous issues with the Saudis and continue to. They sort of Erdogan specifically plays this very weird two-faced game with them. Yeah, to break it down is just these national and ethnic and economic/political conflicts is just religious. It's never right,
Yeah.
Fair. And so, what about Wahhabism? I've heard you talk about that a little bit. Could you explain what it is and how it interacts with the Sunni and Shia belief systems and interests?
Wahhabism, I think, is the closest thing to Calvinism in Islam. Bin Wahhab, who existed in sort of pre-modern kingdom, Saudi Arabia, got exiled from his village for stoning too many women to death. But like just too many by the standards of like 18th century
Yeah.
pre-kingdom. I generally try to be careful about making these analogies because nothing ever is one-to-one. You can very carelessly make these, but generally, if you look at the relationship between clergy and lay people or their equivalents, uh, the Shia concept of it would be more analogous to Eastern Orthodox or Catholicism, and the Sunni concept of it would be more Protestant, which is to say that the Sunni idea is that like it's more like, okay, it's just your relationship with God, whereas the Shia have more. There seems to be a little bit more of a religious literary tradition, and more emphasis on the ordainment of religious scholars and authorities.
Right.
And I think this comparison kind of it goes deeper with Wahhabism, the most severe form of sort of fundamentalist Sunni Islam, being the closest to Calvinism, the most severe form of fundamentalist Protestantism, where, right, the clergy, it's not as supremely important as your personal piety, but the most important thing, just like the most important thing in Calvinism, what Calvinism always, and in severe Protestantism just in general, always devolves into, is the hunt for heretics, because it can't continue on its own. It's so dour and joyless and shitty that the only thing you could do to retain people is to just have a never-ending hunt for heretics and non-believers and Satanists and horrors and gay people and whatever. And that's, I think, is the closest analog to Wahhab, because there is a huge feature of heretic hunting in Wahhabism.
So, would you consider the Saudi crown Wahhabists, and would you consider Bin Laden to have been a Wahhabist?
I mean, the Saudi crown, who knows actually? Who knows who's a true believer and who's just sort of cynically exploiting it? I don't know if I would think King Abdullah was a true believer, nor King Khalid. King Fahd, who knows? He was also afflicted with severe dementia. For a lot of the time, he was thrust out into the open world. Faisal, I think, undoubtedly was a true believer. Bin Laden, yeah, true believer. Bin Laden, I mean, yeah, Bin Laden, I don't think don't think you can argue who's faking it, no matter what you say about him. I don't think he was faking.
Yeah. So what do you think of MBS? Like, do you think he's different?
He's doing a good job. What if that was just my entire conclusion? Yeah, and in general, he's doing his best.
Dude, that sounds a lot like Thomas Friedman. Is he different than his predecessors, and how so? If you think so.
He's a lot more reckless. That's the main thing. The Saudi invasion and war in Yemen. It's previous monarchs would have never done that because it's not the Saudi style. The style is that you have this never-ending supply of money and resources, and you have this never-ending supply of angry young men who are raised severely religiously and pissed off and to hunt for heretics, and you can send them to any part of the world with any amount of money to fight against any of your regional or global enemies.
Yep.
You know, as they did in Afghanistan, as they did in the Balkans, as they did in a lot of places, and that was the sort of that's what they had instead of a traditional military, because a nation like Saudi Arabia does not have a modern military. It has an internal protection racket. That's the thing they're best at. It's sort of like Brazil in this respect, in that their military is very bad at fighting wars, but it's great at just inflicting terror on people in your country.
Yeah.
But just a wretched fighting force, because why would it be? Like, it was inconceivable that they would go in a direct war with another country. It made no sense, especially like having so much an American military presence there.
Yeah.
But you know, the military is just something you sort of you just do over there. Like, you're bored, or you're middle class and you want some sort of advancement, or you're like you're sort of lower aristocracy. You could go into the cavalry, which nowadays is being in the Air Force.
It's like Call of Duty for these guys. It's like, the internet speeds are shitty, and they probably don't have the latest Xbox system. So
well, they have just gotten Epic Games to add Middle Eastern servers. So I'd imagine some people have good internet over there.
There we go.
Man, hopefully they just get bored and distracted. I hope somebody like airdrops a fucking like fucking 15 tons of weed and like a bunch of like Xboxes and like maybe some pornography. I don't know. Maybe these guys will lose interest and fucking enjoy the finer things in life.
They have all that.
Yeah.
They have all that, just like how Ted Haggard had access to the fucking guys and he was still a prick. Nothing. There's no Marshall Plan for being an asshole. You just no one ever stops being a hypocrite. People are just fucking wretched.
Yeah.
And I guess you just have to wait till they die or something.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too pessimistic, but
No, right.
No, you're right.
I wish you were right. The streamer / former esports athlete Shroud.
Oh yeah, I follow him.
The reason we have esports in North America, one of the greatest to ever do it. Have you noticed that sometimes he'll get like a $5,000 donation on stream from somebody with a very clearly like golfy name, like a Kuwaiti? It's always very funny to me.
Yeah,
just some like just some guy sitting in Kuwait or the UAE or Saudi Arabia with just millions of dollars, nothing to do all day, and he's just watching Shroud just drop people, and he's like, "Oh, here you go. Just found this in my couch."
Yeah, he's like freshly decapitated somebody and is like holding their head while clicking the PayPal donate button.
Yeah. Good for Shroud. Get that money, dude.
Yeah, get that. Get that head money.
You have such insane aim. I don't care who gives you money. I guarantee you he doesn't know what's going on with that. I feel like that's gonna be the new thing. Is guys just sort of paying guys like Shroud to play games with them.
Yeah.
Because they did, they did do that with fighting. They did that with jiu-jitsu. In the UAE, a lot of royals just bought their way into being good at jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, by just taking the best instructors, giving them, just putting out a blank check and saying how much.
So you're saying potentially that like the guy at the end of Taken that he has to fight on the boat with like the two knives.
I feel like anyone who claims to be an expert knife fighter is just an insane huckster. He might challenge him to a grappling contest or now like playground 1v1s.
Yeah.
Yeah. NBS and Saudi Arabia, like what's next? I mean, there seems to have been so much happened in so little time with MBS. Like, what's he?
Oh, this is my most absurd prediction, but I stand by it. I think he has at most 2 years left to live, and the CIA just okays someone whacking him.
Yeah. It's funny from all the articles I was reading around Saudi Arabia, and the specialists were like, yeah, every once in a while, the U.S. just realizes that a puppet is not playing right, like something's a bit wrong, and they get too big for their britches, and they just fucking wipe the slate.
Yeah, he's going to walk into an embassy. He's going to have a conversation with 13 individuals, and a body double will walk out wearing some of his clothes.
Well, I mean, you know, who is MBS except for an extremely rich and lucky by accident of birth version of Tommy from Goodfellas, who doesn't do any of his own his own dirty work. So how perfect is it if he not goes out, you know, not just like Khashoggi, but like Tommy?
Yeah,
he thinks the CIA is going to okay the sale of, you know, some ridiculous weapon we haven't seen since the Cold War, like a Davy Crockett handheld nuke.
The heart attack gun.
Pop.
Yeah, it's like something from fucking like Borderlands 2. It's got like all crazy like neon lights and shit on it.
Yeah,
it's all cell shaded.
Because the thing with MBS is that he's stupid. He's a dumb guy. All his big plays, the Saudi incursion to Yemen, the blockade of Qatar, the kidnapping of Hariri, they all backfired spectacularly. He took Jamel Khashoggi, who was a guy that no one in the world cared about or knew, and they turned this, you know, I'm sorry, a Saudi David Brooks into a martyr. He's a fucking dummy.
He worked as a fucking Crown consultant. Like he was Crown aligned. He's a never Trumper. Like he basically saw MBS come and he's like, oh no, this is a new bad thing.
Yeah, and it's like if Donald Trump like killed David French and turned him into a hero. I mean, even like Donald Trump's instincts are significantly better than MBS's. MBS is a uniquely stupid individual.
Yeah.
But I think it's getting to the point because you've noticed you haven't heard a lot from him lately or seen a lot of him. I think that everyone was like, all right, you literally have made the worst possible decisions when they've been offered to you every fucking time for the past 2 years. Let's chill. But I don't know how long he is for this world. I think he's got one more thing like that in him. And knowing him, he's going to do it, right? I don't know what it will be.
Something awful.
He's going to try to he'll try to like kill Geraldo Rivera or something. Well, it's just something bizarre because, and then, all right, see ya. And then it's just, you know, one of thousands of crown princes who will happily do the job in a less stupid way. And then we just pretend like this all never happened.
Yeah,
and then it becomes physically impossible to take the Hajj because of climate change. All the Saudis move to Switzerland or something. We just pretend that never happened. There's this weird population of a few thousand guys who give $1 million to Shroud or Ninja every few months. we just pretend nothing happened. We learn nothing. Just a part of the earth is completely glassed over due to climate change. Literally no change in behavior. And that's it. And I love it. I think it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's great. It's fun.
We love it.
How do you think U.S.-Saudi relations are going to evolve? We were just studying that in 2001, you know, even after 9/11, the general sentiment among the Saudi population was that bin Laden did the right thing or whatever, which is whatever. I mean, awful, but in so many ways, it's understandable because of the amount of intervention that had happened in the region. And then by 2006, they had experienced a bunch of terrorist attacks on their own soil, and suddenly the sentiment was changing, which to me strikes me as such a stupid reason to change your opinion on that. It's like, oh yeah, now the terrorism that has been, you know, basically caused by all these insane interventions that don't make any sense, just like, you know, playthings for these people. And then it's like, oh, well, it's also happening to us now. I guess we're not so different after all.
Well, I think that's just the human condition. It's not uniquely, that's just everyone, you know? That's us, you know? We're that way. Everyone is that way. Everyone is selfish and tribalist and short-sighted and thinks the only way to stop terrorist attacks is more interventions. And of course, and you know, there's also a precious lack of information over there. They don't know. I think a lot of people. Also, opinion poll. It's very rough to run a good opinion poll over there for a billion reasons. So I don't know how much stock I put into that.
Yeah, it was run by the Saudi like intelligence too. So it's like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. the Saudi Frank Luntz, who's also their head of the CIA. But a lot of those attacks in Saudi Arabia, you could trace them back to people who were cultivated by the General Intelligence Directorate.
Yeah.
But it's like the average person does not know that. Just like the average person here doesn't know that. Well, they have even less of a chance of knowing that over there, due to just extremely tight controls on what you can and can't say. But I don't think relations are going to change.
Yeah, still partying, still bombs, still oil.
Yeah, still crystal
I mean,
balls.
that's why you haven't seen MBS in the news. If they were changing, it'd still be in the news and be like, all right, we're officially sanctioning it. We're not going to do it.
No.
Anyone could have fucking told you that. I mean, there's too much money. There's too many wholly mediocre, just fucking nobody nothings in Washington D.C. who rely on that check. You know, how many think tank people, their just entire lives are funded by, if not Saudi money, you know, Qatar or UAE.
Yeah.
Just that type of money. You can't turn over that apple cart.
No.
People's kids got to go to the new school. People got to get a new Volvo. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know, that's really, you know, when you realize the boring upper middle class lives that Empire makes possible, it really you just hate to think about it. Someone's doing all this so they can get a tote bag.
So
I've said it before, but it's
so how
quite
much
upsetting.
how many of your monthly subscribers, you know, on the Chapo Patreon are just Saudis using bot farms to pay you in increments of 5?
I've met one. Well, not like no. He wasn't like a guy just trying to like listen in. He's an incredibly kind guy, and he actually changed my opinion about a lot. He read an article I wrote for Deadspin, and I met him somewhere that he was in America for, and he said that I was like too harsh on like average Saudis, and it made me sort of reevaluate.
Yeah.
But he was just an incredibly nice person. But I had the same reaction meeting him that I had talking to a lot of Saudis, which is just I just wanted them to get out of there. They were too nice to be. They were too nice to be there, and it's a brutal place if you have certain politics or certain beliefs, as a lot of the people I talk to do.
Yeah, it's like the Iranian people. It's like any population under this, you know, kind of cast of incredibly stupid and rich people that just play with their lives like they're nothing, and it seems like no matter what's happening on the geopolitical stage, you'll always have that population that's just trying to get through the day or whatever.
That's most people.
So yeah, let's talk about QAnon. Do you like conspiracy theories in general? Have you looked into QAnon?
I like them a lot. QAnon's a tough one to follow, logistically, because it's just so there's no central QAnon source, and you kind of have to browse hashtags. It's just the way that Twitter timelines work.
Yeah,
things aren't as chronological as you'd like them to be, and it's hard to term search. It's hard to term search stuff because they're so paranoid, and they purposely misspell and obfuscate things because they think the CIA is going to read it.
Dude, they think we're CIA. Like we have been now like brought into the fold of the conspiracy. They think Travis is like a paid operative. Like they write about it like we're part of the conspiracy now, which personally I'm thrilled about.
One of the big guys actually put Travis into a human centipede of anti-QAnon stuff where he eats the shit of the person in front and he poops it into the mouth after. And
I'm feeding all this anti-Q propaganda to the wider media, apparently.
So yeah, it's decentralized, so it's a lot harder to kind of deal with or squash because there's no leadership. Everything's based on like go figure it out for yourselves, and people are like consuming decentralized information. So they'll be consuming a meme created by someone who studied it, and who it's like it's very hard to pinpoint and deal with. Something tells me it'll be around for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean it will be around for a while because of how uniquely appealing it is. Because it's a never-ending hunt for sickos that you'll never find, so you can just always feel like a good person.
Yeah,
that's really it, right?
Yeah, talk about like heretic hunts.
Yeah, no, I mean, at the core of all this is a hunt for heretics.
And there is definitely and I remember it was really interesting seeing the Q narrative sort of shift from like all the Spygate shit to this sort of like good against evil, like Christian, you know, Western Judeo-Christian values, although not really Judeo, because once you get to the fucking like super bottom of it, it's all fucking anti-Semitic shit.
No, what do you mean? They love Jewish people. They just think it's that part of the rocket that falls off as you head onto heaven. So why do you think QAnon's happening now? Like, you know, why is it such a perfect time for this shit to blow up?
It's the anxiety of getting what you wanted in the election of Trump, and then nothing really, just the exact same shit happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you agree with Matt on that.
Right, yeah. It can't just be that this guy's president and that all he's doing is just watching TV. It's that he's on a secret hunt for sickos and pedophiles and freaks.
But he's doing it like a tapping game, like on his phone, not really looking at it.
Yeah. Right. It's appealing because there'll never be any proof, right? And you can never stop hunting. It will never be disproven to you. No one's gonna ever is gonna disprove this in entirety. I mean, you see it when Matt tries to like bet QAnon people about when the next sicko is going to be arrested.
Yeah.
And it will like, and if there's like an NSA guy, a low-level NSA guy that gets taken out for something, they're like, see,
Yeah.
you can always have proof, and it's the ultimate in Protestantism, because you're looking for the disgusting, sick, depraved freaks. You're trying to find them. You never have to worry that they're going to prove their innocence. You've already made up your mind. And they have no way to disprove it. And it's also like, it's a way where you're the only good person in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would explain why a lot of the times when they point fingers, it's just away from, white Christianity, basically. It's like, no, it's the Jews and the Arabs together. Historically they've loved each other. So yeah, now they're pulling the strings together.
But yeah, no, that's, but I do like QAnon a lot.
Yeah, he's got a nice. It's like what you were saying earlier. He's got a nice like panache. Like there's some style to it that's at the very least they is trying to make it interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It leaves it on the table, and
Yeah.
they're incredibly creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like a build your own conspiracy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where sort of Q never, rarely at least, tells people what to believe. He just sort of like sends them on sort of scavenger hunts.
Yeah.
And then people sort of decide whatever conspiracy they think that they want to believe.
Yeah, he's like, oh, in for the Spygate shit. Cool, we got you covered.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, in for like a little bit of like white nationalism. Cool, we got you covered too. It's like, oh, you wanna like go after the Jews on this?
Yeah.
Oh man, well, like head over to vote because we definitely got you covered there.
Oh yeah, you want a little bit of satanic panic? We can get you anxious about Moloch. And
The funny thing is, even when he tries to be like, no, not this one, they don't listen. Like he's like, no, JFK Jr. Is dead. He tells everybody, and they're like, oh my god, this is the best he's ever been.
They're
He's
like,
a psyop.
They're like, Q must be guys. You got to understand that there's got to be disinformation along with actual intel drop. That's the thing. It's like you were saying earlier. The thing about QAnon is it's fully insulated. There's literally no way, because of the nature of the way it's set up, and because it pulls in from all of these other conspiracy theories that have been going on forever.
Yeah.
It's just like totally insulated. So even if somebody were like, we found out who it was this fucking, 11th grader named like Gary P. And, he's been, he discovered 4chan. His mom took the controllers away. And so he's been dicking around on the internet. People would still be like, oh, he's
Doesn't
a
matter.
setup. He's a plant. Like it's already.
Yeah, there's no way. It's out of the hands of whoever began it.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yes.
What do you think is next for the American hellscape, Felix? Just in terms of what we think and how we interact with politics.
I mean, I think that we're going to see a lot of just repeats of history. I think millennials are doomed to become a repeat of Generation X, a very wounded, lonely generation, a very self-righteous one that accomplishes very, very, very little, and just ends up sort of replicating the previous generation. General continuing trend towards loneliness and atomization. I think Gen Z is the wild card because I think that we've underplayed how much of an effect 9/11 had on our national psyche. We've kind of, I think, we've optimistically overplayed how much the recession did. We think the recession made everyone distrust and hate rich people. That is unfortunately not the case. 9/11 imbued this sort of awful spirit of fake emotionality and sanctimoniousness in our country that we never really got rid of. But the first generation with no memory of 9/11, except for seeing it in archival footage, Gen Z seems to be completely without this. And I
That's
am interested. I'm interested to see what happens when the youngest voting generation, the youngest adult generation, as they come of age, has a sort of brutality, a good type of brutality, I would say, to them that the previous two absolutely lacked. The previous two sort of toothless generations lacked. I wonder what it's going to be like when this very absurd generation that they're not wounded in the way millennials were because they weren't promised a future. Millennials were.
Yeah.
These people weren't. I'm interested to see what happens when they run into these absurdly stupid but confident boomers, these sanctimonious Xers and millennials. This world where like a sizable portion of the older population believes in this absurd child sacrifice community or conspiracy theory. But I don't pretend to know what's going to happen. I feel more comfortable making cultural predictions because I think those have less moving parts.
Right.
Right.
But political, I have no idea what to tell you. I'm not incredibly optimistic, but also I'm never right. In my sort of grand stage political predictions, I'm never right. So I've learned to just stop guessing. So I don't know what to tell you.
Just ask Matt and Virgil.
Well, I mean, you on one hand, just pure optimism, and then death, black marshes. The part in H.G. Wells is the time machine where the guy goes too far forward in the future and just sees a giant mollusk lurching in the foreground. So we'll see.
You recently finished a documentary series called Fighting in the Age of Loneliness. Can you tell the listener a little bit about that?
Fighting in the Age of Loneliness is, I will not at all say it's an authoritative history of mixed martial arts, but it is my version of events, what I think happened to a sport that I absolutely loved and I think lost a lot of its spirit, and I think you can make implications that has happened to everything that was unique and interesting in our culture as our trend towards financialization and commodification of all niche experiences and a desire to make everything one media market, and the collapse of all interpersonal relationships and the loneliest age in modern history have befallen
that is devastatingly true.
You don't like having the Chinese character in the 30 person cast of the latest shark atrocity movie?
I know. I just my only politics are inclusion in Marvel movies. It's the only thing I care about.
That's why I tune into Chapo for sure. Are there any other projects in the pipelines?
No. I wish. I wish. I'm very rudderless without a Well, I do have one. I'm reading Carlo Nausgaard's My Struggle with Andrew from the E1 podcast, and we're going to do a podcast about it. I actually like it a lot. It's actually he's very funny, like he's what I predicted he would be, but he's also a terrific writer.
Yeah.
But I think that project is actually going to be a lot different than what people expect.
Right.
Which I like. I think if you keep giving people exactly what they expect of you, they grow to resent you. But no, I don't have as big a project as I did. I kind of wish I had one because it just drives me insane to not have one. I will tell you, if I could do anything next, it would be to do Fighting in the Age of Loneliness, but about esports and streaming.
Oh yeah.
I have a similar. I have an interesting thesis for that one, but who knows? There's no money in no money in writing documentaries, but there's no money in companies for people who make documentaries, right?
Yeah,
So,
you have to put. I work in entertainment, and I just came off producing a documentary, and we had to come up with all the money on our own.
yeah, there's just the companies don't make enough money for people to make more of them. But
yeah.
hey, if you are Jeff Bezos, maybe Jeff Bezos' soon-to-be ex-wife, and you want to fund Let's Go, my esports documentary.
Nice.
Maybe it will cleanse away the sins that you feel.
I like the
All
name, but
ears.
I was thinking you could change it to Ready Player One.
Oh, that's a good idea. If you want to fund my lawsuit against Ready Player One for stealing the title.
We'll never make the documentary, but the lawsuit will be its own story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, man. It's really
My
been a pleasure.
pleasure.
Yeah, this is excellent.
All right, take care.
All right. Thank you, guys.